All right, we're back. So let's go ahead and start the process of both adding general details and then merging these pieces together so that they build a complete cohesive vehicle. So obviously there's still a lot of stuff we have to do, but it's nice to have like an overall shell of the vehicle in place so that we can go about the next steps. So so let's go ahead and take a look at the top-down view here, because it's pretty obvious that we need to add in, like, say, the trunk, for example. That's usually going to be a pretty good piece. And because this template is nicely put together with all the different lines clearly delineated, it will not actually be too difficult for us to figure out where we need to put additional extrusions and details. So, so I'm going to go ahead and create another plane. Go to make that like a 50 by 50 plane. Again, 2 width, 1 height. Move this back here. Go ahead and delete. Oh, select the wrong model. I'm going to lift that up a little bit in Y, just so I don't accidentally select the background template. By the way, actually, if you don't want to select the background template, it might actually be easier just to select these pieces and add them to a layer. So I realized I didn't do that earlier. So I'm going to unhide the front template here. I'm going to go ahead and grab all those template pieces. I'm going to create a new layer. And then I'm going to right-click and select Add Selected Objects. And then I'm going to make this a reference layer. And then that will just mean, like, if you hit the R here. So I'm going to make this the template. And then I'm actually, just while we're here, why don't we actually make like another couple layers. So I'm going to make another layer, call this size reference. Oh, right, I need to. Okay. And then this one, I can actually just make it put the Camaro size reference thing here. I'm just going to hide that, add selected objects, and then I'll hide that actually by just disabling that that layer. And then the last bit, I'm going to go ahead and go to Edit, Delete All by Type History. I'm going to take a look there. It looks like we got some planes here that we don't actually need, so I don't need those transform nodes. I have a camera that I added here, so I can move that up just so that it's with my other camera views. And then I can select all of these planes here, and I can create a new layer. I'm going to call this car low poly. And I'm just going to add these objects. Right-click, Add Selected Objects. And then that way I can toggle the car on and off, and I can actually see what's going on with that as well. So, okay, cool. All right, so then let's go ahead, and that way I won't have to run the risk of like selecting the template or anything in the future. So I'm going to right-click, select face, delete this face on the side, select this object, go to Edit, duplicate special, obviously, like we have before. Make sure I have these both selected, assign existing material, transparent test, and then let's just go about roughly positioning this so that it's where that that hood or that trunk is, rather. So you can see that there's this big like divot here. So I'm actually gonna line this up first, and then I'm going to roughly tweak that. So I'll grab these verts here, and actually the back of a Camaro like this is pretty it's pretty uniform, so it's pretty flat. But so then I can go ahead and I can go to Insert Edge Loop tool. I can insert an edge loop here, and then I can tweak the positioning of this. Okay. And then I want to be mindful of the fact that there's this kind of like little fin thing in the back. And if we want to look at like various views of this, obviously, it's just kind of like a ripple that the back has. We're also going to have to watch that that curvature along the back. So we're going to have to probably do some tweaking in the 3D perspective view so we can really get that like that ripple, almost like a fin kind of thing. Okay. Yeah, so that's fine. So, okay. Let's see. So we might grab these parts, shift them down a tiny bit, and then we can add another division here. And again, I usually try to add divisions at the main, like visible variations in the template that I'm looking at. So obviously this piece right here is a good candidate as like a starting point. Then I know I'm going to need at least one other going right here. So insert edge loop here. Move these. Yep. There we go. All right, and that's actually not too bad, even just like right like that. So here's what I'm going to do, actually, because there's a lot I could potentially do with this shape. But what I want to do is I want to extrude all of this. I'm going to extrude it to this corner roughly, and then we're going to extrude that out to actually add some 3D dimension, so it has all of the it actually extrude the faces rather than extruding the edge. So I'm going to go ahead and hit extrude here real quick. And actually I'm going to use the global extrude so I can leave this, so that middle section will be pretty well maintained. And then I got to look at this piece here, and my goal is to roughly get this so that it's flattened. And yeah, so then I'll do. Let me grab this vert. Position this. Bit over here, and then what I can do is I can grab each of these faces. So right click, select face, I've got 3 faces there, and I'm actually going to extrude that out to create the shape of the fin. So we'll do some tweaking of it, of course, but so I'll have that extrusion, and what I can do is I can essentially like grab these back verts, and I can drop those like way down. And let's see. And it looks like I got a little bit of a separation here. So if I grab this vert, I can type in 0 on X, and that'll just make sure in the little type in here at the top. And that'll just make sure that these stay lined up. Okay. And then also I know, because like in the future I'm going to have to address this, I'm going to grab this face that's in the middle here, and I'm just going to get rid of it. And so then let's take a look at our references so that you can see, kind of what the fin looks like there. Okay, so it looks like it's pretty smooth there. So I'm going to use these verts to kind of gradually soften the transition there. Okay, there we go. Actually, looks like we need to make this a little softer. Yeah. We might want to add another curve in it as well. So I'm actually going to go ahead and do that. I'm going to add another division here so that we can make this a little softer. I accidentally grabbed too many there. Okay. And so then we'll probably be doing a little bit of like smoothing the transition here. Let's make sure. Yeah, okay. Yeah, so lift that up. Probably grab these, lift them up, and probably just generally scale them down a little bit so they get narrowed at the edge there. Got to make sure that it doesn't look like it's warping either. So shift that a little bit. Okay. And this may be something, you know, I mean, obviously, if we were gonna like look at it really extensively, we could find more image references and make sure that this is the most accurate possible. I think for right now, I'm just gonna go for about the 80%. So I know that it's roughly the kind of shape that we need it to be. Okay. All right, and so we've got this kind of basic structure here. So we're starting to get a little bit more of the actual like shape of the car in place. So let's start bridging some gaps here, because I know we're going to need to start transitioning the car into being more combined. So let's go ahead and actually, we could probably go ahead and start actually combining these pieces. So I can select all these pieces, select mesh, combine. Then obviously I'm going to need to go and, by the way, actually, oh, this is something you want to be mindful of. If you go to mesh combine, you go to the options, there's a pivot position. I think that if you go to reset the settings, the default is center. You want to make sure that when you combine pieces, at least in this case, it's best to go to world origin, so that way all the pieces will be relative to the kind of 0, 0, 0. So if we do mirroring, it doesn't suddenly become something that essentially like doesn't make any sense, right? So then we can go to edit, duplicate special, because if you mirrored it and you didn't have everything from 0, 0, 0, then it would be mirroring from some other kind of arbitrary position, which wouldn't be what you want. So, okay. Now, let's see. I'm gonna try to wrap up a few of the details related to this. Let's see. So to make this a little bit easier to work with, let me. So I always forget this, and this is a little annoying, but if you go to shading and turn on backface culling, that by itself will not really like do the job in the viewport. So what I want to do is I want to select this piece, and I want to go to display polygons, backface culling, and then that way, while I'm looking at this, I actually won't be seeing all of the details that are from like the opposite side of the car, which gives me a lot more just like control over what I'm working with. I think the only thing here is that I see a little bit of the trunk because it happens to be angled in such a way that I can see it. But so I'm going to go ahead and move these verts a little. Oh, actually, I don't want to overdo the selection. Move these verts a little bit so that they're like positioned in line with the pieces that we're working with. Let's see. So tweak that a bit. These verts might be a little bit far, but I'm not gonna be too crazy with that just yet. So okay, so what we can do here is we've got this this frame for the kind of inset where the lights are placed. So I'm going to go ahead and extrude that. And I can extrude that whatever amount makes sense. I can also reposition these to make sure that they're not incorrectly placed. So I think I need to grab this one, slide it over here. Probably grab this one, slide that one over here. And actually, let me take a look at this just to make sure that it's correct. Yeah, okay. So it does basically kind of like slant upward. So I'm probably going to go again, like I said, for roughly the 80% fidelity here. So it's not going to be completely accurate, but you know, we'll get it most of the way there. So, all right, so I'm going to grab one of these verts here. Oops. I'm going to type 0 in X to make sure that's positioned where it needs to be. Okay, and that's looking decent. And then yeah, and so then we're gonna want to make sure that these details, these actually probably, these might be extruded a little too far. So I'm gonna grab these, kind of move them. Okay. And then basically, like, what I want to start doing now is going through the process of like constructing the more complete set of overall details. So let's take a look at like so for example, we did the back here. So now let's take a look back at the front. So if I go to the perspective orthographic front, so you know, because we've got the hood, we've got the kind of rough area underneath the grill. We need to actually make the slot for the grill, which, you know, looks kind of like this. And then we also need to make a bunch of the additional transitional sections and extrusion. So I'm going to try to get through the kind of main body of the car for this section, and then we'll go into doing the more specific details afterward. So, all right, so let's go ahead. First thing we probably want to do here is it's actually probably going to make more sense for us to kind of pull these verts up so that we can actually start making more divisions rather than less. Let's see, so okay, yeah, those might be okay. We'll probably make some tweaks, but you got to be careful about when you're looking at something from the front, like what you're actually seeing. So first thing I want to do is I want to make sure that I have a division that's roughly in the center of where that light is, and I'm going to do just kind of like a basic idea of like 2 on each side as well. So I'm going to position these, and we're definitely going to need more divisions than this, but we can kind of see how essentially it's always a good idea to start with fewer rather than more divisions, and then be able to add additional divisions as you go. So I'm going to go ahead and grab this edge, and this edge. Make sure we got that here. And then go to the front view. And I'm going to extrude that down, again, using global extrusion. I'm going to select that vertex there, slide it into position here. So grab this one here. And roughly my goal is going to be, yeah, okay. It's probably fairly close to the right kind of shape to make, and then I can make more divisions in second. So, okay. All right. So, like, for example, in this spot here, it's probably going to benefit me in the long run to make a little bit of, like, an additional curvature, but I'm trying to focus on just, like, the core priority first. So I'm going to select, let's see. So I grab these edges here. I'm going to extrude one more. Actually, you know what? Let's extrude these two separately. Extrude this, bring it down. And then I can kind of try to position this here. And then, like, just to make this a little easier, I'm going to grab this edge and this edge, and I'm going to select bridge. By the way, it's kind of funny. I don't know if you've noticed that we have not been using a lot of tools. I generally don't recommend for, like, complex pieces that you use really excessively complex tools to try to get the job done. Usually the most important thing is just to focus on fundamentals and really having specific control over each of your edges and your shapes. Because in the long run, that's going to be giving you more of what you want than trying to do something that is... like using all kinds of crazy tools and features that don't necessarily add up to a genuinely better model. Because obviously this is kind of the equivalent of sort of like editing per pixel in Photoshop rather than trying to use some sort of a filter or additional, like, you know, helper technique. So I'm going to go ahead and I just added some edges here so I can make a little bit more of a circular shape. And actually, I think that because, like, I know that this is going to have to be like a legit circular piece, I think it's a good idea for me to kind of plan ahead for that. So, okay. And I'm actually going to make some of the extra edge loops here now, so I'm going to do at least this one, this one, this one, and this one. And there are some techniques that we'll use when we get a little further along towards making the model smoother without, you know, adding tons of divisions to it. And then also making sure that we are, you know, following the kind of intended contour of the piece. So, now this may not be a perfect circle right here, but actually there's a trick that I like to use for creating perfect circles. So, like, let's see, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So what I could do here, if I wanted to, is I could go ahead and quickly create a cylinder. I could rotate that cylinder, move that into place here, scale that out a bit, go to my cylinder subdivision axis, change it to 12. And then actually, I think maybe I might even use this as part of, like, the light piece itself. Well, actually, I don't know. Yeah, maybe we could do that. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to just I'm going to make this cylinder in place here. Actually, yeah. Okay, so I'm going to roughly make it so that it's like the general size and shape of this. I'm going to right-click, assign existing material, transparent. Make sure it's pretty much lined up with the center of that spherical shape. And then what I can do is I can grab vertex, and I can hold down the V key, and I can snap using just 2 axes. Now this might actually looks like it's probably not snapping with 2 axes. Let's just make sure that I know exactly where this is getting placed. And now let's see. Okay, yeah, so it looks like... okay, great. All right, that's fine. So I'm going to delete that piece there. I'm going to quickly select this and turn off backface culling. So I'm going to display polygons backface culling. Select all those verts there. I'm going to go display polygons backface culling again. Well, actually, I probably have to select it. Okay. So then we got this kind of circular piece here. I can rotate it. I might want to turn off discrete rotate. So I can turn that around here. And okay, yeah, and then there we go. That should be okay. And then basically what I can do is I can grab this this edge here and then extrude. And this time I'm going to grab the global extrusion, click on the scale here. And I'm going to scale it down to the next circular shape. And then I'm going to push this back because I know that we're going to need to do that for the piece, for the actual model. So I'm going to do that for right now. And then I'm just going to do one more extrusion. So I'm going to hit extrude. But then this time, instead of doing anything else, I'm just going to go to edit mesh, collapse. And then that'll just like make sure that I've got like a little bit of a closed off section here. It's a little offset, but it's not really a huge deal. Okay. So I've got that kind of basic shape there. So let me select my model again. Go to select the object. Go to display, polygons, backface culling. Turn those off again. And then I know I'm going to be doing a number of things to start bridging the gaps here. So I'm going to extrude this here. Hit extrude, switch to global, and I'm going to pull that over here. And then I can also like grab these verts, and like I did before, I can just type in 0 on X, and then I can make sure they're positioned where I want them to be. And I know I'm going to have to make a couple more divisions here, just in general. So I'm probably going to go to Insert Edge Loop Tool. I'm actually going to add probably one here in the middle, and then I'm actually going to add one right over here. And then I'm also going to add one here and one here. Because that's where I get the ability to make a little slight curvature decision. Let's see. All right. Grab this one. Yep. A little bit subtle. All right. And okay, cool. So made a little bit of progress on that. Let's take a look at our top down for a second, because I know what we're going to have to start doing now is essentially getting ready for the other contours as they relate to the hood, and then also the transition into the grill. And of course, looking at references here can be helpful. So I have an idea of like kind of where the grill is positioned and what the overall shape is. So there will be a point where we do a lot of just like tweaking based on what we know the 3D shape will be, because we can't capture everything with the 2D shape. So, okay. Now, I'm going to go ahead and start making this this division, or this extrusion, to start bridging By the way, actually, I don't know. I just realized that this is something I haven't really been using. If you hold down the Shift key while you have an edge selected, you can actually do the extrusion with that. I keep forgetting to do that because of the fact that that didn't used to be a function that was available in Maya. That used to be only available if you have Mac, so I actually feel kind of silly right now that I have not been using that. So sorry if I wasted some of your time there with the different extrusions, because we actually could have done those extrusions a little bit easier. So I'm going to go ahead and yeah, let's see. Actually, you know what? I'm not gonna. Actually, no. I think that's actually fine. I think that's okay. Okay. So that I've got that extrusion there. Going to connect that here. I think we're going to make another insert edge loop here so that we can match the shape a little tighter. And then I'm going to select actually this edge, this edge, this edge, and this edge, and then I'm going to shift drag it. Yeah, man, that's so much easier. I feel really silly now. Okay, so I'm hold down the V key, snap that, move this piece here. And then basically what my goal from here is going to be is I want to just start creating the kind of the transitional bridges here. And I know that I'm going to have to make an extrusion all the way down to here, and then I'm going to have to make some additional cuts in order to facilitate the additional indentation in the grill. So let's go ahead and shift extrude. And I can reposition these pieces to get more specific details. So in general, I also want to be mindful of like where I'm putting each of these edges so that they create natural connections. Because I'm going to have to bridge these directly into the other parts of the model that I've already created. So let's see. So in this piece, I'm going to have to roughly bring that over here. Okay. All right. And please excuse my cat. He's very annoying. Let's see. Yeah, okay. So this part also needs to be adjusted. We didn't do this in the 3D view properly. So let's go ahead and make sure we've got these pieces positioned where they need to be. Yeah, my cat's a total maniac. I think he wants dinner. Might have to take a break to do that in a second. Okay, so let's see here. Yes. Okay, so then what we need to start doing is we need to make sure that every part of this that we've created so far is actually aligned where it should be. So for example, this piece here is supposed to go all the way down to the grill, so I need to make sure that it actually does do that. I'm going to do the same thing here. Well, not quite exactly all the way down to the grill. But close. Okay. And, oh, then I need to merge those verts. So select those verts. Go to edit, merge. Okay, there we go. All right. This one probably needs to be coming down a little bit as well. Sorry to slide that down so it matches. Slide this one down. Slide this one down, and so on. They're subtle tweaks. Just want to make sure that they're fairly even. Okay. And then going back to where we were at before, I'm actually going to, yeah, so I'm going to make another edge loop, but I'm going to make this one right here. And it looks like it doesn't want to complete that edge going across the other way, so I'm going to need to actually make that edge and then manually complete it. This could actually be due to vertex welding. So I'll select each of those, merge my verts. By the way, you can also, and this is something that I often do periodically to make sure that I haven't lost anything. So obviously you can see I have my display here. So I've got 550 verts here for my car. So I can select this car, and I can go to Edit Mesh, Merge, and then it goes to 548 verts. That means that there were a number of very close verts that needed to be merged that weren't. So that's just a good thing to be aware of, because that's something that you wanna eliminate. So yeah, let's see. Okay, cool. Not too bad. All right. Yeah, so you can just make sure you don't have a high enough threshold that it actually merges verts that are not supposed to be merged, because then you'll get a really poor result from that. Not what you were probably intending. So, okay, so cool. Now let's see what's the biggest part that we could add the most value with. Let's see. So I can see here these pieces need to be merged into this, and then we could probably let's try to get like the main side of the model, and then we'll continue in the next video. So, all right, let's see. If I switch to the top-down view real quick, I'm gonna go ahead and make an edge loop here so that I can actually connect Mesh Tools, Insert Edge Loop. So I have kind of a division there that I can use to connect this piece. And if we look at the back of Camaro here, we can see, yeah, that essentially comes up to meet the window here. So I'm going to select these verts, and I'm going to raise them up. And I'm going to kind of slide this here to this position. Well, probably got to be a little bit careful that I don't too fundamentally change the shape. Okay. And then I can weld these verts, so I can go ahead and select Edit Mesh, Merge, do the same here, Merge. Okay, cool, that's good. And then I know I'm probably going to need to, let's see here, take a look at the back. So I'm going to switch my front view over to the back view. I know I need to actually, oh no, actually I think that's actually okay. Yeah, that's actually what it's supposed to be. Okay, cool. All right. So let's shift over to the side for a second. Let's see what we can do about fixing these additional details. So I think I want a few more divisions in the oh man, I'm totally blanking on like this part of the car. It's the part near the rims. So I'll add a couple of divisions there, soften that up a bit. And then I'm going to extrude this whole edge section all the way up to actually right here. And so I'm going to go ahead and hold down Shift and extrude this up. And it's gonna actually create a lot of useful polygons, but we're going to need to actually still modify this quite a bit to make sure that this works as intended. So I'm going to move this one up here, this one down here, because these are probably going to actually end up merging or bridging the gap between the other verts for the most part. Yeah, and we may end up adding more divisions here. But for right now, I think this is probably sufficient. Okay. So let's see. So we're obviously going to have to add more divisions into this model so that everything gets bridged together appropriately. So we're going to have to make sure that there's a little bit of like some additional transitional verts and so on. So let's see. Actually, I might shift this one a little bit. Okay. And then let's see. So, okay, so we got this piece here. All right. Cool. All right. And so let's see where that puts us, because this is actually the part of a Camaro that is often pretty distinctive. So we want to make sure we get this as right as we can. So I'm going to go ahead and slide this, slide these over here. This one definitely comes out a bit. Okay. And yeah, so it looks like what we're going to need to do here, we might want to do some target welding. I think that would probably be the easiest way to resolve some of these spots. So I'm going to go ahead and, because I know that the trunk is, or the hood is pretty much where it needs to be. So I'm going to go to Mesh Tools, Target Weld, and I'm going to start welding some verts. Oops. That's kind of annoying. Let's see. Oh, I think it might be because of backface culling. It's not really letting me weld. So I'm going to go Display, Polygons, Backface Culling. Turn that stuff off. Hopefully that'll allow my target weld. Yeah, there we go. You got to be a little bit careful about the angle though, because target weld is really finicky. And I also know that there's a number of places where I'm actually going to need to... Let's see. There might be some options in target weld that might make this a little easier to work with. No, actually they don't have any options. So it's based on the overall welding that you need to do. So okay, so I'm going to make a really quick division here, just so I can merge this piece. And then I will probably worry about smoothing that later. So I'm going to go to Target Weld. Make sure I got my verts selected. Weld that piece. And then for the most part, I think that we're actually getting pretty good on here on the side there, because that's roughly matching what the car needs. So I think we've gone a little while in at this point. So I think that like there's a main shell in place for this car. So this is a pretty good starting foundation. So I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up here, and then we'll come back to the next part after in the next video. Okay, thanks guys.